Friday in 2025, just the third day of the new year. We're still feeling like it's the holidays here on the Maize and Blue Review, and holiday with good cheer with Jerry Diorio, who joins us on the line. There he is. Jerry, how are you?
Great to be in Michigan Wolverine in 2025. Happy New Year, everybody out there. Looking for a big year this year coming up.
I bet. Jerry, I was talking with somebody earlier, and not to get too personal with you or anything else, but he said, this is Jerry Diorio's week. He said he loves New Year's Eve because it's his wife's birthday, and then he loves New Year's Day because then he can watch football all day. He always has he always turns the clock well each and every year in the calendar. And so best of luck to him. So there you go, Jerry. This is your week, huh?
Hey, Denny, thanks for the tee up. I want to wish my wife a happy belated birthday. I didn't get the chance to say it last week, but happy birthday, Kath. Looking great after all these years, and just a great wife and mother. Love you to death. Happy birthday.
Got to say, is Kathy?
Kathy.
She does a great job on social media. I always see her posting pictures of you and the kids and the grandkids and everything else. It always looks like a very good time. She does a great job. And that's not an easy thing to do, is get there on social media and make everybody look good. But she does it. Well, Michigan
is a PR person in this realm. So, yeah, she does a great job of that stuff. I couldn't even tell you how she does it.
Well, we're going to be looking at the portal, which Michigan, hang in there right now. We are monitoring at least two players that Michigan, it would not be a complete shock if while we're on here that Michigan adds two players. So we'll see. That's not a prediction. It's just there's a window where Michigan is in on a couple players, and that could happen. So we'll look into that while we sit here in the 2:00 hour. The playoffs, the college football playoffs, for the last few years, we know they were down to 4. Now they are down to 4 from 12. We'll see what everyone thinks about how this is played out to this point as they head into the games next week, Thursday and Friday. But it's only been a couple days, Jerry, in talking about the ReliaQuest Bowl and Michigan coming out. Michigan's second team beats Alabama's first team, and it was unexpected. And, now that you sit back and look at it, boy, it was a really good win for Michigan, especially when you couple it with them beating Ohio State. And so here we sit with a big arrow pointing up at Michigan and their trajectory in 2025.
You got to feel very comfortable about and confident in where we're at right now with Michigan football. As far as the defense is concerned, I think it couldn't be better than this past year and somewhere in between this year and last year's defensive team. Remember, we're looking at the entire year of our defense. At the end of the year, I don't think – and I'm going to throw a shout out here. Okay, Wink Martindale, in my opinion, is probably one of the top 5 assistant coaches in the country right now at the end of the season. I mean, he has done a phenomenal job with that defense. This defense has got his writing all over it now. He's got his players in position that he wants to perform. He's got his up front ready to go, and our defense is playing lights out right now. And a big time shout out to Wink and what he's done this year, adjusting to what he came into and what he was thinking. Denny, when I first got into head coaching, I made a huge mistake when I went in thinking I'm putting my mark on this team immediately. When you go into a team that is successful, you've got to be careful of that attitude. And I think Wink walked into the same kind of deal, thinking the same way. But as the season moved on, he adjusted to his team and to his opponents and just did a masterful job in November and December coaching this defense. Next year's defense should be in the top 3 to 5 defenses in the country and I might be a little bit conservative there.
Well, his resume really it looked great after the Ohio State game, and then looked even better against the Alabama game. And then as Ohio State has continued against Tennessee, and then obviously against Oregon, his resume looks even better. I mean, Jeremiah Smith, it doesn't look like the wide receiver from Ohio State can be stopped by anyone. Meanwhile, Michigan had him down to 5 catches and 35 yards, and the Buckeyes were only able to target him twice in the second half. And this Ryan Williams, the 17-year-old wide receiver from Alabama, he put his name on the map against Georgia when he went crazy for 177 yards and that long touchdown. And, Michigan, you buried him. 3 catches for 8 yards. These are two of the best, if not the best, wide receivers, freshman wide receivers, obviously, in all of college football. And it wasn't just, I know, and this is one of the, I would call it narratives, Jerry, that a lot of people watched the Ohio State game and were like, oh, Michigan, Ohio State was stupid. They didn't throw it to Smith. And, I think there's a little bit of a point to that. But then you say the same thing. Well, Alabama's stupid. They're not throwing it to Ryan Williams. And, I think Wink's sitting over there saying, yeah, you guys are the stupid ones, or something. You got to get a little credit to Michigan on that side.
Maybe Oregon was stupid. Maybe Tennessee was stupid in the way they approached that game. The fact of the matter is, Smith caught a touchdown pass, which arguably was offensive interference. Michigan dropped 7 and played a great zone defense against Ohio all day long. You can say what you want about Ohio-Michigan game this year. Ohio ran the ball less than they passed the ball. So don't tell me Ohio wasn't trying to get wide open and trying to really influence the game with their passing game. They did. It failed because of Wink Martindale's defense. They played a great zone defense behind 4 extremely talented rushers that either got home or put pressure into Howard's face, causing him 2 interceptions and not really able to find Smith at all that day.
Yeah, the argument on the Michigan side is a winning one at this point. After the Ohio State game, I think it's a, fool you once, shame on me, fool you twice, shame on you kind of situation. But the way that the Michigan defense played against Ohio State, limiting them to 10 points, and they did not have Will Johnson, but man, they said, they got Mason Graham and they've got Kenneth Grant. They didn't have those guys against Alabama, and Alabama had every motivational factor, and their quarterback that was trying to, play himself into the first round or whatever else. Yeah, they're starters, and Michigan's defense. Jerry, when did you think in that game that it was Michigan's to win? At what point in the ReliaQuest Bowl?
Well, I mean, early on, Denny, you saw the weather. The weather was it was a huge factor. And Wink Martindale took advantage of it. I mean, he put the pressure on Alabama from the offset, took advantage of bad field position for Alabama and bad weather conditions, and gave our offense great field position. And frankly, I was a little bit nervous. And when we only came up with 16 points, I thought we should have had at least 20, maybe 24 points, in that first quarter. So, early on, Wink sent the message that he was coming, he was going to go after him, and he was going to take advantage of the circumstances.
Teams can adjust, and, that's a part of coaching, that's a part of football. But the very first series where Alabama went for it on 4th down and Derek Moore got the sack, you could see Michigan's defensive line. They weren't getting pushed around. They were getting into the Alabama backfield, and so it was pretty eye-opening right off the bat, where it was like, Michigan, you forget, they've got all these great players, and I was guilty as anyone, as guilty as anyone, thinking about all the players that they lost, and oh man, this isn't fair going up against the first string. But then you're like, these guys are pretty good that they have out there too. When you've seen them all out there playing together. And then, I don't want to say just it was the first series, but as soon as that ball starts squirting around on the field, By the time there was the third turnover, that was the interception. So they turned them over on downs. They got a turnover on the first play. Then they got an interception on the, second play. I guess I'd have to look to see what exactly was. That's when I thought, yeah, second play, interception. First play, fumble. I mean, it was happening so fast that it felt like it was going to be Michigan's day pretty quickly in that game. Now, they had to go the whole thing, and it came down to almost like the Rose Bowl the year before. Jalen Milroe, 1st and 10 with over a minute and 2 timeouts from the 15-yard line. You know, it was a little bit like the Rose Bowl, different circumstances, but needing a stop, and you're able to get the win, and that's what happened. So, but pretty quickly in that game, it felt like it was going to be a different story than some Alabama route.
Yeah, Denny. I mean, again, it's that old bend and don't break philosophy, and I think you saw it against Ohio, and I think you saw it work a lot against Alabama. Now, with that said, I will say once they got down there, Wink came after him big time, and he sent the pressure, and to me, that is brilliant when you got your game plan. And then when the time is right, then he sends it, and he was getting home and putting pressure on it and making passes unreasonable to catch. It was just a brilliant coaching job by Wink Martindale and that defensive staff.
Well, you know that Wink was hearing about that he was blitzing too much. I was looking at Angelique Shingelis, the fine writer from the Detroit News. She was tweeting after the game, and she said that she ran into Wink Martindale on the field. And according to her, Wink came up and said, "You think I'm blitzing too much now?" So, I mean, it was on his mind.
And we've been saying it all along, Denny. We said it even back in spring that we said that we were a little bit nervous that Wink was going in that pro style a lot when he had maybe the most talented defense in the country. But that just happens with anybody. You're coming into a new situation. You've got to find out who your personnel is. You want to talk to the old coaches and do all these kinds of things. But at the end of the day, he wanted to put his mark on that defense. To his credit, though, he utilized his mark and that talent, combined them real well together. And by the end of this season, I think Michigan's defense is as good as anybody in the country right now.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about him. I was nervous about Michigan's defense and Wink Martindale in early August when Makari Page was made available, and the question was,
nothing.
How different is the defense going to be?
Everything
with Wink Martindale, and Makari's like everything's different. Every single thing's different. Everybody was laughing like, "Oh yeah," and like, wait a second. And then there was even a follow up like, "What do you mean everything's different?" No, everything's different. He said. And it was different, and it took him a while. So, yeah, the defense allows 10 points to Ohio State, and then they back it up. They validate with how they played by doing it against Alabama. So
let's not forget one other thing, Denny. 20 points against Indiana. 20 points against Indiana. 21 points against Illinois. And those Illinois points came off of what? A fake punt and turnovers. So you've got to go way mid-season is when you started seeing Michigan's defense playing to what we were expecting all year. And I see a comment on here. I saw a comment. I wonder if Wink is consulting with Texas right now. I'm going to tell you something. The other teams I've seen play Ohio, I thought they were a lot more man than what Michigan did. And Texas seems to play that zone defense. So I think Texas is going to take a look at that Michigan film real thoroughly and see what Michigan did to them.
I think the thing that Texas could do the most is they could change that burnt orange to maize and blue and come out there, and that would really throw them for.
That always throws them up.
That would throw them for a loop for sure. So yeah, the defense spectacular. The road ahead looks paved with just marauders out there, things, and Wink is looking good. How about on the offensive side? Now, it wasn't an offensive explosion. A lot of people were calling it for good reason, like a throwback game, because it was run the ball and punt and play to your defense, which we're not used to in the 21st century. But there were some standouts, Jerry. Give me a couple from your vantage point of being a former offensive lineman, an offensive guy. What did you see on that side of the ball?
Well, first and foremost, I thought Marshall showed that we've got a heck of a future in the running back room. Marshall and Hall, with all due respect, I don't think he's our number 2 running back. I think it's going to be Haynes when he comes in. But Marshall showed as a true freshman, not only can he secure the ball and make hard runs, but he can continually do it throughout the game with little backup. I don't think Hall played all that much. I mean, he did play, but we have to say the bulk of everything went through Marshall, and I think he stood up well, played hard, and showed he's going to be good. Now, with that said, he's going to be even better in the future, because I thought our offense was way too vanilla. And I'm not just talking about we needed to throw the ball and all this other stuff. No, we were way too vanilla, not just this game, but all year long with our run game. And I think we said that plenty of times on this podcast, that we were way too vanilla all year in our run game. We did not threaten enough gaps, in my opinion. We didn't spread the defense out and exploit some holes, but I thought Marshall played really well. I thought Davis Warren played very well, and when you look at the PFF grading on that game, Davis Warren was actually the highest grade of anybody on that offense on that team. So I thought Davis Warren played well. And so when I say those two things, I'm looking at our offense going forward. I'm looking at 2 rooms that needed to be enhanced. And I think they got greatly enhanced, not only through the transfer portal, but these last 2 games. I think Davis Warren has shown that he can compete for that job. Now, when the young man from Fresno comes in, when Keene comes in, I think that's a legitimate competition at the quarterback position. And whoever comes out of that competition, from Lindsey's point of view, the new offensive coordinator, whoever comes, we're going to feel pretty confident and comfortable with that, because he's gone through a competition for that position. Competition makes everybody better. And we've got 2 guys that have experience, that can go on the road and win. And we're going to see him with a new system behind him. We don't know what Davis Warren is capable of. We saw him with a very vanilla offense this year, with a lot of controversy, a lot of mistakes all year long. And by the end of the year, he just kind of managed the game. I thought he played real well in the bowl game. And I think that puts him in a position, if he's coming back, I think that puts him in a position to compete for that job. And that makes you feel real good. You got 2 solid quarterbacks competing for one job, 2 starting quarterbacks from 2024. Also, the other big room that we needed to fill was that running back room. We're losing Mullins. We're losing Edwards. We've got to fill that position, not to mention some of the transfer portal kids. We come back with Marshall and we come back with Haynes. Now you got 2 running backs that can do the job. With Hall, now you got a nice backfield room going into the spring. I like that backfield room. Our offensive line, I thought, played pretty decent. I thought they were handcuffed again by a very vanilla offense, run game, and they were hampered by that. But I thought our offensive line played decent, and Moore is showing that he can be a real threat.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sound like a cliche machine saying that the competition will reveal itself after the spring and fall, but cut from a different cloth is making predictions already. We're all doing it and stuff. He says Justice Haynes will be the running back 1 for Michigan. He says Nick Saban recruited him, so that means he's real good. Ben Hall had 16 carries, so maybe a few more than we thought.
Yeah.
They just ran it right up the middle all game long. But There's a chance that Haynes could be the number one back. I mean, I'm not saying that he couldn't. He looked pretty good in limited carries against Michigan in the Rose Bowl last year.
And had a great run against Vanderbilt this year.
Yeah, so I mean, he's capable. He was, the highest rated running back. I mean, he out of Georgia. You have Nick Saban bringing him in. Yeah, that's not nothing. Nick Saban liked him there, so yeah, that wouldn't be a huge surprise. I think I don't know. Let the best man win. I would say Marshall, Hall, and Haynes. They should be able to get two pretty formidable backs out of those guys right there without going down the depth chart of Capana and then the two guys that they're bringing in as true freshmen too. So it's just a healthy situation right there.
No, absolutely. I think those were two big rooms that we've got to fill. And I think we did a nice job.
Yeah. A lot of people want to talk about if Michigan had, better play at quarterback and maybe another offensive line that they could have ran through this schedule and maybe only lost. I've heard people suggest 1 game, 2 games.
Maybe some more receivers that got open downfield, all these other things, okay? You can say all you want, okay? Yeah. I don't think our offense was very imaginative this year, and I think it put our players in bad positions.
Yeah, and it took a while for Wink to – remember, people wanted Wink gone after a month of the season, the way the defense looked out of sorts, and they were talking about not being lined up and just not – the communication was poor. So you can say, well, yeah, I mean, if Wink would have had him coached up like he did the last month and the first month, and yeah, if they had a quarterback, they had another offensive lineman, and if Sharon Moore called a timeout against Oregon, if he did a better job managing the clock against Indiana, there's a lot of what ifs, when you start doing that. But hey, they ended up the season in fine fashion to make everybody feel good about where they're at on and off the field. Did a great job in recruiting, obviously. And it started, you're saying, go back to Illinois or whatever else. And I know that they thought that they figured stuff out and they saw it on the field against Northwestern. It felt to me like that was a lot of rah and okay, Northwestern, bowl eligible, great. But now looking back, I got to believe what all those guys were saying that they felt that something really clicked in against Northwestern. I mean, that's what they're saying, and then they looked really good after that and beat Ohio State and Alabama. So I believe it now. No,
absolutely. We came off that bye, went into Northwestern, and it was like our kids never looked back. They were playing tough and just did an outstanding job. Remember, won our trophy games: Northwestern, Minnesota, Michigan State. Won our big rivalry game, Ohio State, on the road, win our bowl game. That's a pretty good season.
Pretty good season. Yeah. People saying best 8.
I mean, it's 8-5. It's not the Michigan standard, but by the end of the season, it was a pretty good season.
Best 8-5 season ever, I'm told by a lot of people that follow Michigan. I'm not here to argue that. So far, we've already talked about Justice Haynes coming in and providing competition in the running back room. The competition at quarterback is going to be talked about from now until the opener and until we see Bryce Underwood. And, I look at it, Mikey Keene, he's coming in. They might need him. People that are like, they don't want to see, they're saying negative things about Davis Warren, they could use him. I mean, you can use everything that you got. I look at the quarterback position like this. You throw as much as you can at that position, and whatever gets you there and whatever gets Underwood in position whenever he's ready. I'm not saying anything disparaging about Underwood if it meant that he might not be ready to game 3, 4, or 5. There have been plenty of examples of guys now. There's been guys that have come right out and played from game 1, but it doesn't mean that he's a bust if he doesn't play the opener. The idea is that when he's ready, he's in there, because it can affect a kid negatively if he's out there. You could pick up bad habits and you might not be ready. That's why they have all these guys. So everybody we don't want Davis Warren, Mikey Keene can't do that. Who knows what they're going to need and how that plays out. I know, let's see. If I had to guess, I am thinking that it is going to be somebody other than Underwood from the start, but that's just me guessing.
Denny, I remember when Johnny Wangler a couple weeks ago said the best way to do it is probably to play Underwood like we played JJ his freshman year, and I totally agree with that. Sprinkle him in, get him some reps, get him some experience. I don't think he's ready for game one. You people that are down on Davis Warren, again, this is a new offensive system. You have no idea what he's capable of in this new offensive system that's coming in. We were trying to run an inside zone like a read option, but there was never a read. We never pulled the ball and came out and made people pay for it unless Orji was in the game. And I think that's going to change with this new offensive coordinator. I think we're going to be attacking more gaps, and I think it's going to put defenses on their heels a little bit more, and it's going to be more of an appealing situation, not only for our quarterback, for our whole offensive team.
I hear what you say, and I heard exactly what John Wangler said. That was, very important. I know what I've been saying. Guys like Trevor Lawrence, who took him to the 5th game. When you're a Michigan fan and it's Bryce Underwood and he's the local kid and everything coming in, I don't think anybody. I don't want to hold back anybody's enthusiasm from them saying that he's just going to hit the ground running and play from game one. Okay, go ahead. I don't want to, tap the brakes on anybody, even though I'm talking about it and I'm making my predictions. I just think, let it fly. If you're a Michigan fan, if you feel real good about it and say, this kid's just going to be great from the start, maybe, why not? Go ahead. Don't be too disappointed though. Maybe that's the thing. If it doesn't mean he still can't be this great, number one NFL pick and lead Michigan to the promised land if he doesn't start from game one. That's my point on it. So, Jerry, Michigan still with all of these players, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 they have so far in the transfer portal. They're still looking at wide receivers, and they're still looking on the line, and they're still looking at defensive backs. And this is my time to tell you that if you want to know who these guys are, who they're going after, who they're targeting, are they really getting them? This is my chance to tell you here in the new year to join up with the Maize and Blue Review, and you can do that today by going to michigan.rivals.com. You go ahead and get that done. Let's answer a question or two and then talk about these playoffs. How about that, Jerry?
Go ahead, Danny.
Okay, let's see. Smash the Numbers is asking you if Orji could come back to Michigan at a different position. What do you think?
I mean, all well and good. I mean, he could still come back. I'm not sure what position he would play. Are you saying to go back to linebacker like he was in high school? I don't know. Maybe a tight end, H-back, something like that. I don't know. It is nice having Orji there as a quarterback still in that room somehow, and at least having another body back there. But I don't know how effective Alex Orji is going to be at another position. I mean, it takes people time to learn a position and get good. Scar and I have talked about this several times. You have to be there a couple, 3 years to feel comfortable and confident in yourself that you're making the right decisions, that you're making the right steps, that you're doing the right things. Okay, that takes time to get good. And so to sit there and say, we'll just plop Orji into something, I think that would be a bad sign for Michigan. If we can get a quarterback to come in and play linebacker for us, that's something we got a problem.
Well, I hear you when you say that, and yet Mikey Sainristil went over the other side of the ball and was great, and then he was even better. So I hear you. I think that if he stayed around, I think an H-back, the transition to being an H-back and being on a kick return or punt return, special teams ace, I think he could make a name for himself. And then in a pinch, if he needed him in some a wildcat situations, so maybe. But so I'll put a maybe on that. But I hear what you're saying. I think what you're saying is true. I mean, usually you're not. Mikey Sanders is the exception, not the rule.
Well, again, you're talking about a quarterback going to a linebacker, which I just made the comparison, or H-back, versus a receiver going to a cornerback. Those two positions are kind of interchangeable. We have to agree on that, Denny, right? Cornerback knows what the wide receiver is going to do, and a wide receiver's got an idea what the corner is going to do. So they're both kind of interchangeable. You're talking about a quarterback moving to another position. I think that's a stretch.
Yeah, people, we've just talked about Davis Warren, and we've talked about Orgy, and it has not been revealed yet. He had a brace. I was talking with somebody today that said he didn't. It was all speculation, about the extent of that injury. So I don't know. I don't know if he's going to get a second opinion. I don't know if it's an ACL, if it's a sprain, whatever. So I do think, it makes me think what is going to happen with players like Davis Warren going in. Michigan has to be at 105 scholarships next year. What kind of an agreement did they have with Warren, who said, Sharon Moore talked about they would like to have him back. Warren, he wasn't 100% committed. He said, but right now he's a Michigan Wolverine. So sure, he was playing his hand, but I would just say if he was out, would Michigan make him an analyst, making him a coach? Because would you still want to give him a scholarship if there was no chance that he was going to play, or a very small chance? Maybe that would be something you wouldn't want to do. I don't know. It's made me think about that, about what they do and all those kind of things, So that's it. Jerry, how much of this college football? I'm thinking that you watched all of it. How many of these games did you watch?
Watched them pretty much all of it, Denny. Pretty much all of it.
All right. Well, so what are your impressions about the semifinals now that we are down to 4 teams and we have 2 Big Ten teams and Notre Dame? You've got Michigan's number 1 rival and Michigan's number 2 rival all time in Notre Dame. And I would say Michigan's number 3 rival is Michigan State. Penn State probably is number 4. So, this is a heavy Michigan rival. A lot of people they don't know who to root for. They want all of these teams to lose. And then Texas beat Michigan. So I don't know. Are you?
I'm rooting for Texas, Denny. I'm rooting for Texas. I'll tell you why. I think Texas's defense up front is very solid and can compete. And I like Texas's zone scheme in the secondary, which is going to be different for Smith that played against Oregon and Tennessee. When Michigan put that defense out on the field against Ohio, it gave the blueprint on how to beat Ohio. And I think the closest team to do that would be Texas. I think Texas's scheme is closer to Michigan than anybody else. So I'm rooting for Texas. They're way down in the Southwest. We don't have to worry about them too much in recruiting. Yeah, they're going to be in the top notch, which is where we want to be all the time recruiting. But they're down in the Southwest. We're up here. We don't want Ohio, Penn State, or Notre Dame to win. We would rather have it somewhere else in the other region. With that said, Notre Dame, what they did to Georgia yesterday was unbelievable, to be honest with you, because Notre Dame was missing some people. They're missing a big offensive lineman, big defensive lineman, and I felt like Georgia outmanned them. And hats off to Marcus Freeman for a coaching job that he did at Notre Dame against Georgia. It was outstanding. He got on them top fast and stayed there. So that was good. Penn State, I think, has had the easiest road so far to get to the quarterfinals. Very, very capable team. Good up front both ways. I don't think they match up with Ohio at the receiver spot, obviously, in the backfield. Maybe a tight end, they have a little bit of an advantage, but I I think Penn State has been happy with their schedule so far. We're going to see what they do against Notre Dame. Again, Notre Dame is beat up. I see this Texas-Ohio game being the one to watch and probably the winner coming out of it.
Yeah, the one thing, there's people that college football in my lifetime, the way, even before the BCS, people have always complained about there not being a playoff, them voting for it, and the BCS was BS, and then people didn't like the Final Four. And so, there's always going to be people that are complaining. I thought that they got the 12 teams correct. They didn't seed them right. Giving, Boise shouldn't have had a bye, and neither said Arizona State. And then we only had really one, really good game with Arizona State. But when I was just thinking through it with all the, people complaining about it, if you look at the AP top 25, Oregon and Georgia were 1-2. I mean, they were going to be 1-2 in any kind of situation. They could say we wouldn't mind playing our quarterfinal games in our home stadiums, and they might have a point there. But if you look at the next four teams, they're the ones that are in there. So it wasn't all that bad, that here it is, and where we're sitting right now, Penn State, and you can argue Notre Dame, Penn State, and Ohio State. I mean, they're taking advantage of the situation here, and now that we are down to a Final Four, the thing that you didn't have great games, you only had one, so that's going to make people, let's move things around so we can get great games. That's fine, but I'm happy with how things, even though there haven't been great games.
It's the first year. Let's give it some time. Maybe the committee is going to come back and look at some of those things and start pairing teams according to where they really should be instead of just by conference championship. So it is that first year. There is some learning. There's learning curves. Hopefully the committee is going to get it right, and it'll start being a lot more enjoyable in the coming years. But some of these first round matchups were outmatched.
I'm with you. I'd like to see a little tweaking. They don't have to go to 16 teams and drastically change anything. Well, Jerry, that's it for me. I got to run. I appreciate everybody getting in. Hit that like button. Happy New Year to everyone. You have a final point, or you want to take us out, Jerry?
Hail to the victors, Denny. I like where Michigan's at. Let's hope Davis is okay. I forgot to mention that. Let's hope he's okay. And I think 2025 is going to be a real good year for us.
Happy New Year, everybody.